truly vying for since I started doing my podcasts. I absolutely admire women in power, and when they're from the movies and media, I'm completely enamored by them. I totally understand, the kind of challenges and the limitations coming from this region, but today with me, I have a superwoman who's taking giant strides and creating waves internationally. UAE's first film writer, producer, and director, Nayla Al Khaja. Thank you so much, Nayla, for finally agreeing to come on the podcast.
No, I'm really humbled with the introduction. I feel it's, a bit, I don't know if I deserve all that, but thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely, so much and more, because I think in this region, I didn't come across anyone who's doing what you are. So, we have to agree, right? Being from this region, the challenges and the limitations, especially coming from where we are, the culture, the religion, and all of that. And to break that mold and come out of it. Yes. So how has your journey been, Nayla, truly?
It's been fascinating, it's been brutal, it's been soul-crushing, it's been soul-lifting. So I can't say I will ever go back and change my life course, because it's really been a blessing in the end. Film is the kind of field that sucks you in with big force, and it crushes you and then builds you again. So there's one thing that it doesn't have is routine. There's no such thing as routine. So if you're someone who gets very uncomfortable with change, and big change sometimes, it's 100% not for the faint heart who cannot handle that. And some people are completely fine being in a box and they're very safe and it makes them happy. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, since I attract chaos and I thrive through chaos and order, it's the right fit for me. Obviously, I've had, as you mentioned, social challenges, family challenges. First of all, I wasn't allowed to study film. I was only allowed to do film if it's only documentary filmmaking, because it's not as glamorous and doesn't have the negative stereotype of narrative filmmaking, whether it's stuck to with award ceremonies, after parties, all that stuff.
Yes. So you have to limit yourself and stay within
the documentary, which of course I didn't do.
Yes, I was about to get there. So it doesn't seem like you just stuck onto that. You moved on, you've done more stuff.
But I believe when my parents, they actually started seeing my first narrative films, they felt very comfortable, because they're like, okay, this girl seems to be attracted to the macabre and dark side of life, so I think we'll be fine. I think they were just
as long as it's not overly glamorous and out there,
or overtly fresh with fresh scenes or something that's against our religion and culture. I think they're okay with it. I have no idea what tomorrow unfolds. I just always follow.
Just keeping it out there.
Correct. Yes.
So and the fact that when I grew up watching Bollywood movies, I was so enamored, and obviously I was so excited seeing the color, the flamboyance, and all of that. But always I knew it would be difficult for me to get there. It was clearly nibbed off, from the young ages. So which is why eventually I came around to being behind the scenes. So have you ever thought about wanting to be on the screen?
See, that's very interesting, because maybe in a different context and culture, I would have probably tried that, and I have tried it once.
You have?
I have, and I gave that dream for my parents, because I feel like, yes. So I didn't give up on my dream entirely, because I'm extremely passionate about directing, but I did give up the dream of acting. And maybe now that I look back, maybe it's a mechanism to cope with by saying, oh, that was the good thing, but I don't know. It is good in the way that I got focused more on directing, and I feel it gives me the chance to kind of live through many different actors on the scene, and the chance to also paint with light, because my background is painting. So I feel like by directing, I'm able to express my voice in a more larger scale. And by producing, even much larger, because when you're producing, you can do 3-4 films a year that you're passionate about, and discover new voices in the region, which I'm also extremely passionate about. So I feel maybe it's a blessing that I'm not doing everything, that I'm focused on those two, but also because I do appreciate and dearly love my folks. I don't want to break their heart, because right now, at this moment in time, being in front of the camera in my culture is extremely taboo and super controversial. Yes, and I always have this philosophy in life: poke as much as you want, but don't stab. So I wasn't gonna stab them so early in the game. And I feel maybe later in life I can do it just for my heart as a 75-year-old. I think at that point nobody would care. Nobody would care. But at the moment I'm really having a ball and having absolutely a fantastic time. I mean, who would have thought in a million years that I would have, I can't reveal names, unfortunately, because we haven't done the press conference yet, that I'd have a star in my film, which is my first feature film. I'll give you a hint. He was in Game of Thrones and House of Dragons.
No way, Game of Thrones?
And House of Dragons more prominently.
Okay.
And then also...
I haven't watched that.
and that I will have the legendary, obviously, A.R. Rahman composing for my second feature film.
So this, the Game of Thrones actor that you don't want to take his name, is in your first feature film?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, so you have 2 films back to back?
Yes, I do. I have 3 films back to back. I have
so you're rolling it.
I am rolling. It's almost like, it's funny because I haven't done a feature film. Well, I have done a feature documentary, but not narrative.
Okay.
For, I'm going to be 45 in a month. So by the time this podcast, I was probably 45. So for 45 years, I haven't done, a long narrative feature film. And now I'm like 3 back to back. It's almost like compensating.
Compensating. So I think it all happens in good time.
Yeah, I think the time is ripe. I'm matured way more as I have more finesse, more experience. I understand filmmaking, the process of going through now a feature film, which I've experienced. So I feel it's almost a good thing. Everything happens at the right time. And Khalil Gibran, the poet, always says like everyone has their own time, and never compare your success or your timeline with other people, because we're all meant and destined for different paths.
I think it's only to find the patience to actually, get there eventually.
Yes,
Yeah, but then
and don't give up. Correct.
Don't give up, absolutely. To have these 3 back-to-back movies on a large scale. Did you shoot them all in Dubai? Was all the shooting in Dubai?
No, I shot them in, well, not entirely. The first one was shot in Bangkok, so I was there for 9 weeks. It was quite difficult as a mother. Yeah. And, but I was, my family came and went, so that extremely supportive husband. So very lucky to have him. So it's also very important to, they always say you are who you swim with. Okay. People's energies can really impact you, especially I feel more, men get impacted, don't get me wrong, and they bottle it up, right? Yeah, but I think women even...
Spoken about enough though.
Yeah, because females are a bit more sensitive, more nurturing, more emotional, just by our genetic nature. So I feel we get even impacted more, which is a good and bad thing, of course, because if the atmosphere is positive, we really blossom.
Yeah, absolutely. So did you think that, when now you said it's a first feature film and it's going to be releasing on in the movies, yes. So but also you have a couple of movies that's on Netflix that's also equally huge. Yes. So what do you think about the OTT?
I don't know about huge, but it's an achievement for me.
Yes, absolutely. It's a step-by-step process, and now you've...
And it's funny because they bought both at the same time. So
yeah. So how does that feel? What do you think about the OTT platforms now? Do you think that...
honestly, they have done so many things. Like if we go layer by layer, layer 1, politically, I think it's fantastic because it's breaking down a lot of the stereotypes, which impacts politics, obviously. Everything impacts politics, right? So I think it's nice to see films from... Palestine, stories that never get the limelight. And Netflix is embracing all sides of the stories, not just from one region or the other regions.
And, and the movies reach to so many people that you won't ideally expect.
100%. Basically what it's done, it's created a democracy for storytelling by the sense that now you have access to films you would have never had access to before. Yeah. It has broken down the whole studio system in the States. It's also given people a taste outside what we call the fish and chips. When you go to the I want fish and chips, but try sushi. Oh, no, it's not for me. But now people are trying all sorts of different films. Yeah. And my husband, for example, as a good example, who's never watched an Indian film, surprised me by watching a South Indian film. He doesn't understand a word in Malayalam. Okay. But, it was a documentary. Okay. We watched it together. To be fair, we didn't finish it, but it was quite dark. Okay. We liked the first few episodes, but we just felt it was really heavy. And he read subtitles. He watched a wonderful Spanish film in subtitles, which again, things that we wouldn't have naturally done in the past. Yeah. This also helps Arab voices like myself, that now that we have content, we're not just stuck in one market, but these OTTs are giving viewers around the world to look at our voices and our artwork as well. So it's nice to have both films, Animal and The Shadow, that are playing right now in Netflix, and I believe they're going to be on their OTT for the next 2 years, so people have plenty of time to watch them. Yeah. But I have to say, they are not long, they're short. Yes.
Yeah. I watched, but I think that's a good start, and it also opens a lot of opportunities for people who want to explore the medium, right?
100%, and it's nice because I've established a relationship with them, and it means that, for my next films, it's an option, so it's good.
It's an option, and also because you said you are now featuring, the movie theater movies. So I think that's obviously a bigger market eventually, where everybody wants, aims for. So you were saying you have, to break more stereotypes, you have a Swiss husband. So that's another stereotype you broke with your parents, like many traditions that you're consistently breaking. So how was that?
It's almost like every 6 years I give them some kind of shocker. I'm like, okay, stop it. So with my husband, it just came very naturally, to be honest. Like
Were your families very receptive of it?
yeah, I met him during work, so it was a work environment, and then I immediately introduced him to my brother because I came at a stage like, why do we need to hide? We're not children anymore, you know. And basically introduced him to my mom and my brother, and they felt very, very comfortable with him.
Okay.
They,
I think by then they'd taken to the fact that you are.
And they met him they met him many, many times. And also then what happened, my husband became my brother's client, or the other way around. No, the other way around. And that's when he got to know him even more and more. And he says, honestly, go for it. Yeah, so.
You had all the support of the family.
I had all the support.
Even though it was a shocker initially.
Yeah, my dad didn't take it as easy, which I completely understand because it's so, unorthodox. It's not something that happens, but, he's a very decent human being. I think I hit the jackpot with him. I really do. And mashallah, alhamdulillah. So it's really nice. And he embraced everything in this country and everything that it stands for. So there's no like clash of culture or religion with him. It's all we're all in sync. Yeah.
So have you thought about exploring the Swiss market, like where he says from the Switzerland, if I'm not mistaken? So have you thought about exploring there? So what do you think about the market in the UAE as a filmmaker? And do you think it's conducive enough? Because, with all the limitations that there are over here, do you think you would rather explore another market, to get a larger audience? To be able to
100%. I mean, markets also are determined. One of the major, as they say, trigger points is population numbers, right? And, if you look at Saudi next door, it's like 30 plus million. Over here, I'm not sure if we reached the 10 million top, but anyway, it's around that vicinity. And it's not a big market, where if you see Thailand, it's 70 million people.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So markets, they create those type of demands. And sometimes you create the demand, as we have seen it here, build it and they will come.
Yes, so that is what, UAE is the first for everything.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think it is, but unfortunately, it's not for filmmaking. It's never been a priority. I believe that once it becomes a priority, you will see quick change, and we are quite fast.
Yeah.
So
how has that journey been in terms of finding production or funding over here in this?
It's impossible.
Okay.
It's very expensive, and
but then there are a lot of companies like in Abu Dhabi. There is a 2545.
Yeah, these companies, they're there, but what are they going to do? They're still in a place where they cannot change the market rate. It is a very TV commercial-driven market, and when you have
TV is huge here.
Yeah, but when you're talking about Coca-Cola and Mercedes, I'm sorry, those rates that crew get paid, they're commercial rates. They're not going to be independent filmmakers' rates. And there's no independent filmmaker community, maybe on a very small scale, but it's never been on a bigger scale. We don't have producers on the right number. We don't have writers. It's because maybe it will take a big series like Black Sails, what it did to Cape Town, where it burst after that. Maybe it will take one series or one movie that can trigger that snowball effect. We haven't reached that. Maybe Saudi does something that then, people here say, oh, wow, this is great. Maybe we should then collectively join forces and say how we can flip the table.
But at this point, you think it's very slow?
It's dead water.
Oh, really?
Yes,
because we see all these news
You see service production. This is what people always confuse. There's a very different thing about working on ground roots cinema and making films from A to Z here by people who live here, and having a Hollywood or a Bollywood movie come here and we shoot 10 or 20% of that by it's a transaction. You get paid, you service my film because you have amazing location, great weather, and then I leave. That's it. It's good for the economy, yes, but it doesn't create a film industry.
So where do you see this going in another 5 to 8 years? Like, as a producer yourself, what would your contribution be to this in this regard?
That's a really great question, and I've thought about it for a very long time. I think it will happen in the sense that once I'm done with my 3 back-to-back films, my idea is to raise money on their back. Hopefully one of them is successful.
All 3 of them, inshallah.
All 3 of them. And then just logically I'm not into film funds anymore. I don't think they work because of the slate business. It confines you. If you already have 7 pictures, that's 5-6 years in the making, maybe, I don't know, maybe more. And then you're kind of tied because you already chose your film. So if the market changes, you can't be flexible, or maybe you can. But my idea is that I raise money for a certain type of company and have partners, basically investors. And then we create a library of films by co-investing with other people, or making films from scratch from here A to Z, and having that kind of ethos in the company. Because I don't know who else is doing it right now. There is one company that started. but this is a production house, so it's not just distribution or sales.
That'll require a lot of investment again. So maybe
Yes, of course, it will require a lot of investment.
But that's something that you are willing to spearhead.
100%, and it's not just the UAE market that you look at. When you have that investment, you can have your headquarters office here, and you could have a branch somewhere else where it's more vibrant. I mean, honestly, I would probably not flirt with this idea 10 years ago, but now with Saudi, KSA, thriving next door, it's the perfect ambience and the perfect atmosphere there. Just to give you an example, there was a film that came out 2 weeks ago. The English pronunciation, I think it's Satar, and it's an Arabic film, and I apologize if I botched the name, because I read the English press release, and I saw that within 2 weeks, it made over 2 million, within 12 days, made over $2 million US, beating Avatar. It never beat Avatar globally, of course, but in the Saudi market, for that time, it sold more tickets than Avatar did. If anything,
so I think there is an audience,
of course, there's an
but
audience.
there is not enough. You're not,
Content.
there's not
100%.
enough. Yeah, you're not able to cater enough.
Yes, and our businessmen here and women investors are not. They're not accustomed to this. They're not convinced. They just don't understand the business. There's not enough producers and investors in this field here to take advantage. But it is happening, because I'm hearing pockets of, investments happening here and there in film and entertainment. So I feel that it will take some time. Maybe in the next 5-8 years, but how Saudi behaves will impact us for sure.
Yeah, and also in your feature films, like you were saying, if you have these names, like if you have the big name, like you were saying, you have an actor, then you have A.R. Rahman. Yes. So if you have these names, I think it also attracts a lot of global audience as well.
100%. It helps with sales. You have a poster face now that people are familiar with. That doesn't mean the film will do well.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's the content, of course. Yes. But then that is a great pull for, your movies.
And I want to be an ambassador to my country, because by making a film that...
You already are in a lot of ways.
Not yet. I mean, my dream, one of my first initial dreams, is hopefully that one day that my film will get into a big festival. And by that I mean either Cannes or Venice or Toronto or Berlin. At least then we can say there's been a long feature film that has been in these festivals. From the history of all of these festivals, we've never had a feature film from the UAE. And it hurts, because you see countries with less wealth and less capabilities are, punching the bag really well by entering these festivals. So I feel like that time will come. And I think hopefully either a film from here or KSA can change things.
Okay, so you are closely looking at KSA, how they are.
We're at the tipping point. You're interviewing me right at the tipping point. So let's see how it goes.
I'm super excited, and I want to see your journey, because I think it's an inspiration for a lot of people who want to get into this field, right?
I actually have an intern here in my upstairs in an office space who graduated from SAE, and he's working.
SAE is?
I don't know what's the abbreviation, but it's a film institute here where people can study film.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So he's doing an intern on my feature film. He's very excited. So obviously he's working.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of interest here, but then I think they're not getting it right.
There's no access. Yeah, and there's so
you
much
see all
talent.
these Emirati shows even on Netflix. Now, not Emirati necessarily. Now we see a Dubai playing. The show has blown out of proportion, because I think there is an audience. But yeah, like
of course.
you said,
I mean, that's what we call bubblegum TV. It's fantastic for people who love it. Yeah. It's a reality show, and all reality shows are like that. Let's be honest. Maybe not all, but most. And it attracts an audience, because people like to watch these type of personalities. But that doesn't necessarily
translate into audience for movies.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't expose all the beauty of my country and all the different and all the different segments of people that live here. And it's not their job to do that. Don't get me wrong. But we need more variety of content that can be a reflection. Yes, there's a segment that behaves this way, but there's also stories between the alleyways, or a mother that's working 3 jobs to support her son. I mean, there are a lot of human stories that need to be told.
It's not all glamour.
No, of course not. My first feature, for example, is about mental health. So, and it's based on a true story. So yeah, and from Dubai, from the 90s.
So what is the stamp? What is the Nayla Al Khaja stamp on your movies? What is the message that you want to bring to your audience?
I'm not sure if I have a message. I know that I want to, express feelings, and I want to entertain, and I'm not there to educate people at all. I'm there to
enjoy yourself in the process.
Entertain and tell stories that are important, I guess, to me first personally, because I understand them, and then or through the process understand them, and also that are important to my people, that are reflective of my aesthetic, my culture and history and heritage, and kind of weave that through a wonderfully gripping story that people can watch and say, oh wow, that's really different, that's really original. It's like when Korea came up with their horror movies and we're like, oh, in awe, Same thing, like Russian, they have a certain way of making films. Like every country has kind of their touch, or the French cinema. So I feel like, whether it's Khaliji cinema or UAE cinema, it's finding your voice through that. And for me, it's a really, really, I would say, a palette at the moment that's quite, I would say, maybe a little sensitive, dark, and unsettling, if I have to describe my work.
Yeah. Unsettling. Yeah, I've noticed that you have a lot of dark content, even when the posters are a little dark.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think that is how you, obviously at the end of the day, you have to have your own stamp or your...
Because I love magical realism. I'm a bit surrealist myself. I love psychological thrillers, but more on the quieter pace. So if I give you like examples of movies that I like, you would understand, like The Witch, Pan's Labyrinth, my classical one, and then...
I haven't heard of these.
It's okay. You don't have to watch them, but...
Okay. Yeah. So now let's move to our fun take segment. It's like rapid fire, but then your answers don't need to be necessarily rapid. Okay, so I need fun answers. So the big one, Bollywood versus Hollywood.
Neither.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought I somehow sensed you would be a Bollywood buff. No?
I like them both, so it's kind of difficult to say. When they say...
You like them both, but not enough to choose one or the other.
Probably. It's like when you're in doubt, leave without. So I'm going to leave that question out. I didn't mean that to rhyme. That sounded so cheesy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. But so you like them both equally, so there's no favorites.
I think I like them both in the 80s, and 90s.
So what movies do you tend to watch more?
I watch independent cinema a lot. I also watch, cheesy popcorn movies, which I enjoy. We all have our guilty pleasures. But I like a story, I like a film that has a good story regardless of genre. Let me put it that way.
Okay. So if there is a Bollywood actor that you would want in your movie, so you have these different superstars now, in your movie, who would you choose in Bollywood? Now, I'm from Bollywood, I enjoy
That's
my
a tough
Bollywood
question.
movie.
I would say maybe Amir Khan.
Ah, really? Oh, that used to be my favorite.
Yeah. I'm old school, right? Yeah. So apologize.
So clearly you haven't seen the latest movies. No. So how was it working with A.R. Rahman?
Amazing. He's incredible. I'm still working for him. So we're still in the process. So it's very early in the process.
So Khadija Rahman was one of my first guests and an absolute darling. Yeah.
Yeah, she is. She's such a sweetheart. Yeah. He knows how to make you feel comfortable, so you feel like you can get into your element. He listens. He is very nurturing, and I think by doing that, he's impacting generations of artists. He likes to connect artists together. Like he introduced me to other musicians. We've discussed the main song of the film, and
movie Bab.
Yes, and that's going to be.
So when is it release?
Oh no, God! When is it going to be shot first? So it'll be shot end of this year and released next year.
Release next year. So what are the movies that's up, that's going to be released anytime soon? What's your next movie?
So every year I have one film. So this year it's 3. It's called 3.
Oh, the movie's name is 3.
Next year is Bob, and then I shoot the third one next year, and then the year after that is I have no title for that.
Okay. So what do you think is the most underrated movie you watched recently?
Recently? Oh, wow. That's a tough question. You're putting me on the spot for sure. Underrated film. I'm not sure if I've seen anything recently. I can maybe mention one underrated film, but not recently. Perhaps a very old film. It's a commercial film, but didn't get the publicity I feel it deserves. It's one of my favorite films, Apocalypto.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of it, but I don't think I've watched it.
I think it's insane. I think the art department, most of the stunts are real. I think the pace, the energy in that film is just A++ filmmaking.
I think I heard of the movie because of Mel Gibson, because he was a huge star.
I don't think it got the marketing push, and I probably know why, but for controversial reasons. But that's one underrated film for sure.
Okay, a movie you think you could have done better recently?
Oh boy. I don't want to upset any directors because I know how difficult it is to make a film. So hats off to everyone who's even done an independent film. Okay. Well, I'll be a little cheeky. So The Cabinet of Curiosities by Gulin Amor himself, where he was a showrunner. I would say I could have easily done one of the episodes better.
Okay. The Cabinet of?
Curiosity.
Curiosity. Okay. So given a choice, what would you have chosen instead of movies?
Nothing, just movies.
Yes, because that's...
But if let's say movies didn't exist in the world, period, and then my second option would be painting.
Painting. So what did you do? You said you didn't learn movies in uni.
No, I did. I went to Ryerson. I studied there.
Yeah. But you said your parents wouldn't even let you get into...
No, I eventually did. I went to study. They just said, don't make features, make documentaries.
Okay, so that was your aim from your childhood. That's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know if I wanted to be a filmmaker when I was very, very young, but I knew I loved storytelling, and you know, expression can come in many different forms. And then I just stumbled into film and fell in love with it because of the chaos nature of the industry itself. And I also have I would say, a commercial side to me, and an artistic side. So it kind of fulfills both ends. Yeah.
Makes sense. So now this is an interesting one. What is the best part of being married to a non-Emirati?
Oh boy, he can't understand my conversations when I'm talking to my mom or my sister.
Okay, so you want to keep him out of the conversation.
Unless he does, and he's doing it very well then by having a poker face. No, of course not. I'm being silly. I think the best part is being open to different cultures, having tolerance, and also like bring a very different perspective on the table with parenting.
With parenting?
Yes, I really like it. They are very hands-on. You know, he is super hands-on with the children. Like almost like at some points, I feel bad. I feel like, oh my God, he's more motherly than I am. You know, it's very inspiring.
Wow, and that's a good perspective. You know, I wouldn't have expected that. So, an app or a technology that you hate but you have to use a lot?
Ooh, Instagram. I don't even use it a lot, but it doesn't. Social media doesn't come. It's not a technology. It's an app in a phone. I mean, you know what I mean. But it's something that I understand it's important, especially if you want to be relevant. You want to push your films and marketing sense of point of view. But it doesn't come naturally for me. I really, really struggle with it.
Yeah, I think in a lot of social media you're forced to perform, right? Yes. Because you have to cater to an audience, and they're very important to you. So, what would your advice be to your 20-year-old self?
If I had to go back, I will say buy those damn apartments at Sabah Tower because they were at 200K on paper, and I decided not to, and it was the dumbest mistake because, you know, I could have made...
Anyway. And now you could have made millions.
Yeah, of course, but you could say that about any kind of investment. I would say probably my advice to a younger person, I'm not sure. I would say maybe volunteer more, go more on film sets, watch more independent film. I think I kind of started really late, so maybe starting earlier.
Yeah, would have helped.
Yes.
So anyways, thank you so much, Nayla. I know you've been rushing. You're in a rush. And
now to go pick my children.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure talking to you and finally fulfilling my dream because I've also been always so enchanted by media and movies.
And I do hope your audience watches both of my films on Netflix, Animal and The Shadow.
Sorry, Animal and The Shadow. Of course, that's a movie. Both the movies are on Netflix and they're around for 2 years, right?
Yes. And by the way, Animal's not the one with penguins documentary, but it's actually the narrative film.
Narrative film. Okay, so thank you so much, Nayla.
Thank you so much.
It was my pleasure having you.